I definitely agree. And to be honest, you're one of the people that's inspired me to come out and start doing this as well. The thing that I always loved about you was you're incredibly insightful, and at the same time, you have excellent comedic chops where you can just go out, especially in those transmog contests, and you can crack
Yeah.
pretty good jokes. So it's really nice to have somebody like that in the community, and more importantly, for my channel specifically, or the people I think that follow this, almost as important, if not more so, in the classic community. And speaking of classic and everything that pertains to classic, you've been very vocal about your position on classic as to what you want and the fact that you wanted classic to begin with. For those
Yeah.
that don't really know too much about it, could you kind of describe your involvement in classic and what you want to see out of it?
Well, I want to see Vanilla WoW in the state that it was in at some point in 2004 to 2006. Like, it's hard for me really to say, which patch I would want it to be on. And to be completely honest, I haven't been one of those guys that's played vanilla for the past 10 years. And I don't fully understand that as well as other people do. And in this day and age, it might come as a surprise, but I'm actually not going to just throw out a completely uninformed opinion about something that I don't fully know about. I'll let the people that understand it much better than I do hash that out. But the important thing to me is to make sure that the game stays in its original state. That's basically what I want.
So let's talk about its original state or its multiple original states for a little bit, if
Right.
you don't mind. So, right now, what we've been experiencing in the community ever since the announcement is a strong divide, a very, very black and white dichotomy.
Mhm.
There are those who want no changes and preach the no changes gospel, courtesy
Yeah.
of the Church of the Unchanged, started by people such as yourself, and whatnot.
Yes.
And then there are those who, even those that have played actually that played back in vanilla or are currently playing certain undocumented realms today,
Yeah.
that have been requesting alterations, minor, major, whatever it may be. What is your opinion on minor alterations? Why are you so gung ho about no changes?
Because it's very easy for people to grasp. It's very easy. If you look at political slogans or anything like that, it's very simple. It's something that everybody can understand. No changes. Everybody understands it. No changes. Caps lock. There it is. It's done. There's not really a lot of like nuance associated with it or anything like that. It's very simple, very straightforward, and very easy to understand. And because of that, a lot of people can grasp onto it. And whenever I start really getting into it and talking about, yes, okay, maybe a colorblind mode would be okay. Yes, maybe this other thing would be okay. Yes, maybe there are changes within that occurred within Vanilla's life cycle. They're obviously up for debate, right? You're talking about like UBRS, how many people are able to go into UBRS, Strathlome, debuff slots, etc. And that's what I was saying before is I don't really have very strong opinions on that. But what I do have a strong opinion on is adding things into the game that were not initially present in the game in its 2004 to 2006 state in the original vanilla WoW. That's something that I do not want to see. And I've said before that I would rather see the bug where you're stuck in the looting stance for 45 minutes and says you cannot loot that corpse. I've said that I would rather see that than than the bugs, or sorry, not the bugs. That is the bug. Than changes. I think a lot of people might have misinterpreted that statement as I want to see those bugs in the game. I don't necessarily want to see them in the game, but I would rather see them in the game than changes that alter vanilla from the state that it was initially in during the 2004 to 2006 period. And there are very, very small things that I think are not necessarily like terrible things to do, like the like new character models. I don't want them in the game at all. I do not want new character models. I think it's a bad idea, and I just want to see the game in its, as I said, original state. And I feel like it would cause other like minor problems. Like you have like this great new character model, and then right next to it, it's like some really like ghetto item from the original like sunken temple.
Yeah.
It would look a little bit awkward, and it would be jarring, and it would kind of make the game show its age a little bit more than if everything was the same. But those types of things I'm not as strongly against as something like a group finder. And I'm not talking about LFG or LFR, but just like a group finder queue system, cross realm. Those types of things are changes that I feel would be completely an achievement, adding achievements into the game. I feel like those changes themselves would be very transformative for vanilla, and I feel like it would change the experience. And it's very hard to say if that would be a positive change or a negative change. And I think the simplest, easiest, and least complicated solution is to not open that door to begin with.
I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
And you definitely strike me as the kind of guy that really wants to preserve the original vanilla experience. And
Yes,
it's fair to say something like that, right?
absolutely.
So let's talk about that experience, at least in context of Asmongold, of you.
Mhm.
What were your favorite parts of classic or at least vanilla WoW? What are the things that you treasure the most about it, and things that you would like to see not only in vanilla WoW or classic WoW's resurgence, but also in the modern game?
I think a certain element of prestige, and I think there's also a element of like a we're all in this together aspect. And I always use the phrase that vanilla WoW wasn't really a game, as it was more of a fantasy world simulator. You would go into that game, and there was a separate economy, there was a separate type of communication, there was a separate social hierarchy. Everything was separate. It was like a second world that you would go into. And I feel like as the games evolved, it's kind of devalued those different types of social connections that you needed to make back then. If you saw somebody with full tier 2 gear and Thunder Fury or something like that in Stormwind or Ironforge back in the day, it didn't just mean that this guy played the game a lot. It meant that he, spent all the time getting to 60. He's a team player because he's a tank, right? Or if nothing else, he's a huge loot whore, and so his guild gave him Thunder Fury either way. And he was able to work within a team. He was able to succeed within the team, and the gear was not only a representation of the amount of effort that he's put into the game, but also a lot of this quantitative and secondary and things that aren't necessarily visible, but are so incredibly important whenever you're interacting and communicating and being part of a group, being part of like having the DKP back in the day, being able to fit into an organization and be successful within that. I feel like was a very positive experience for a lot of people, including myself. And it helped me, like rating in WoW and being part of that helped me in different like jobs that I had in real life, because I knew how to be part of a team. And I know that might be silly for a lot of people to say, but it's absolutely true.
Absolutely.
Being able to defer things and not always getting the thing yourself first, and being able to work together towards a greater goal. Those are things that expand, and they go beyond just World of Warcraft. And those were skills and experiences that people had in vanilla WoW that are no longer present in Legion. And I think they really started to erode in Wrath of the Lich King with the Group Finder. And obviously in Legion, there are positives. I think that Legion has kind of turned things the opposite direction in some regards, but with other things, it's gotten even worse.
I agree. Now, there's a contingent of people that will take a look at what you just said, and they'll say something along the lines of, well, I paid $60 for Legion.
Mhm.
I have the right to play the game, and I'm happy with all of the advanced UI elements that have been added to streamline the social experience or to link me up with other players to run dungeons and raids and
Mhm.
so on. What do you say to those players? What do you say to that contingent of people that feels entitled to the content because of their purchase?
Play Legion.
Simple
I
as that.
mean, they have two games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the big mistakes that Blizzard could make is if they're making classic WoW to appeal to their current audience, the best they could do is break even, right? Because the main thing that they want to do, the worst thing that they can do with classic WoW is to alienate the people that they're trying to get back. And those people are not necessarily the audience for Legion, because the audience for Legion, they've already got them. They should look to how to get more people into the game and bring back those old players. And obviously, it looks like the LFR and LFD systems were designed in a lot of ways to keep those old subscriptions on life support. And it's hit and miss. But I feel on top of that, having Classic WoW be a way to get those classic players back, I think is a much smarter idea than trying to make Classic WoW like the existing game. Because you're right, there are a lot of things that the existing game does 1,000 times better than Classic WoW. You have rotations, you have gearing, you have combat in a lot of ways, you have PvP. There are thousands of things that are better in Legion than there were in Classic WoW. You have the mount tab, you have achievements, you have pet battles, even like all these are just little things that you can do in the game now in Legion that you didn't have access to back in Classic WoW. So I think you can make a lot of arguments that Legion is a better game, and I'm not saying that it is. I love Classic WoW, but at the same time, I don't feel like they should try to make Classic WoW a less evolved version of Legion.
I absolutely agree with you. And it's funny that you mentioned the two separate audiences.
Yeah,
Within both of those audiences, there seems to be some divide, but I think you're right. The classic community does seem to want, or at least seems to be vocally advocating for a very, I guess, unhindered, untouched version of vanilla, or at least the
yeah,
closest possible to the no changes vanilla. Now, there's been a lot of discussion in the community in these past couple of months, especially since the announcement, and a couple of questions that some people have asked me to relay to you, especially regarding what happens, quote, after Classic. And I've always kind of looked at this as a cart before the horse sort of situation, especially since,
yes,
we're like 3 or 4 years away from this scenario. But there is definitely a group of people that wants to see either Classic go in this direction, or they want to see the next iteration or evolution of a vanilla-esque MMO with some of the modern innovations of today. So with that said, what do you think about the idea of vanilla WoW, because it has its own community? Down the line, 2, 3, 4 years from now, Blizzard comes out and they say, okay, we're going to take the OSRS route. What do you think about something like that?
I think that would be a great idea as long as they have another server that exists that's the original game. Um, so what I would like to see, Classic WoW releases, UBRS is out, and like just all of the baseline stuff, and like Onyxian Molten Core is released. Then VWL comes out, then AQ comes out, then I think ZG comes out, then Nax comes out, or whatever the order is. I forget. But I want to see the tiered raid releases, and I think that would be the best thing for the game. But at the same time, after Naxxramas comes out, and after people kind of get to that point, I don't think it's out of the question at all that maybe people would want to see more content. Maybe people would want to see, Karazhan Crypt's raid or something like that. And is that something that they should do? I mean, there's no way. Like, I mean, like for one, is like, yeah, that's a great idea, but like the game's not even out, right? I mean, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's like, don't worry about it. It's not going to be out for a long time. Max is probably not going to be released as soon as Classic comes out. And so whenever that happens, it's an issue of we'll cross that bridge whenever we get to it. And I think at that point, if Classic WoW still has a big audience, then I think a better solution than evolving Classic WoW would be looking towards making a Burning Crusade server. And people, if Classic WoW is very successful, there's no way they're not going to make a Burning Crusade server if Classic WoW is not very, very successful. Blizzard is a company, and if Classic WoW makes them a lot of money, they're going to continue that. And I think that seeing the original trilogy, the Vanilla, Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King trilogy of the game in its classic state is absolutely something that we could potentially see. But in terms of like vanilla content going beyond vanilla, um, I don't know. As I said, I think that could be cool, but my main concern is making sure that there is a server with those no changes. If they were separate after all the content's been released, as I said, I can't say for sure that yes, this would be a great idea, but it doesn't seem like it would be a bad idea.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Would it be fair to assume that Asmongold, in his deep, dark moments
Mm.
at night before he goes to sleep, looks up at his roof and thinks to himself, man, if only this kind of MMO came out, or I wish an MMO had this kind of features, or I wish, this new generation of MMOs would come out. I'm waiting for a new game. I'm waiting for something like Vanilla WoW, but maybe with some, modern advancements and so on. Are you the type of guy that thinks about this stuff in your free time?
Every day. I think about that. I tell people, right? People are like MMOs are a dying genre, etc. It's like 10 million people. Like today, WoW was number one on Twitch.
Yeah.
It was above League of Legends. It was above everything. The reason for that is because the neckbeards aren't gone. They're waiting. We are waiting. We're not sitting there. We haven't grown up. There are a lot of guys that they are waiting for a game that they can waste their life on and feel good about it. And Vanilla WoW delivered that. Burning Crusade delivered that. Wrath of the Lich King still did kind of deliver that. And that's been something that has been eroded but that core element, that visceral need to succeed and to be part of something and to enjoy an MMO in the way that we did with vanilla WoW is not something that can be replaced with League of Legends. That is something that people will wait for until the ends of time. And they did with vanilla WoW, and they are still waiting right now.
Preach, brother. But for real, like I completely agree. A lot of people I hear say that, well, you can't enjoy vanilla WoW as much today because people just don't have enough time, or they don't have as much time as they used to. It's funny. I work a 60-hour-a-week job, and I'm married, and even today, I feel the drive more than anything else. When
Well,
there,
yeah,
yeah,
of course. I mean, it's the same with me, right? I mean,
mhm.
I'm very busy with like streaming and stuff, and I also have, I have to take care of like a whole house, and like I'm responsible for a lot of things, and I would gladly throw all those things away, or at least try to.
I'm with
I'd
you.
gladly try to throw all those things away to level up to 60 really fast in vanilla WoW. And the problem with the whole thing with old players and everything is that it's okay to get old and quit. It's okay. There comes a day that you ride off into the sunset and you say, "That's the end. This is it for me. I'm done playing the game," and you admit that. For me, there were a number of games that I did that with, and there were genres, right? I'm never going to be good at like a game like Counter Strike again because I just feel like my reaction times aren't that good anymore. And it's okay for me to ride off into the sunset and say, "I love this game. I used to be good at it, and now I'm not anymore." Right? I can look back at my screenshots, at whatever it was, my times, my memories, and I can enjoy that. And I don't feel the need to have to slow everything down and deny the people that, the Asmongolds of today of that experience that I had. And I feel like that's been one of the mistakes that Blizzard has made is instead of catering and creating that experience for new players that ended up making the new players back then play for 10 years, they've tried to retain those older players. And because of that, it's made the new player experience for people that have that ambition, that had that drive, it's made it hollow and it's made it less meaningful.
Do you believe that World of Warcraft, as it was in vanilla, is too niche for the modern audience?
Time will tell. I think that's one of the best things about vanilla WoW is that we're going to be able to see if all those rose-tinted goggles are what they are, or it was a legitimate great game. And I think that there is successes on a number of private servers. You looked at how big the reaction was from the nostalgia shutdown. Hundreds of thousands of people, probably millions of people in total, heard about that and cared, and hundreds of thousands of people signed a petition. Now, I don't really know like how good the longevity of the game is going to be. What I can say is that WoW has amassed people over 10 years, and I think that whenever they do release classic WoW, the WoW subscriptions, if it's doubled, like if you pay a WoW subscription, you're able to play Legion or Battle for Azeroth probably at that point, and also Classic at the same time. WoW subs will be the highest that they've ever been before.
I agree.
Just, I mean, not even close. Like 15 million would be a low estimate in my mind. You look at anybody that makes content nowadays. Like we were talking about this before. Total Biscuit started on WoW. You're looking at like Lyric on Twitch, started on WoW. Soda Poppin started on WoW, still plays WoW. There are so many people nowadays that grew up playing this game, and they will go back to that game, and that will not only help all of those, the audience for the game itself, but those people are only representatives of hundreds and thousands of people that had that exact same experience that just aren't streaming. And I feel like it's going to be a huge deal. It's going to be massive. And I think the real question is the test of time. Is it going to withstand 6 months, 8 months, 10 months? Are people still going to like playing it? I think that Classic WoW is going to lose 80% of its audience, but it's going to start off with probably over 10 million, right? So if it loses 80% of its audience, that's still millions of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever I say that, people are like, "Oh wow, what is this?" And then whenever you're looking at the numbers, like, well, yeah, actually, it does kind of make a lot more sense. I think a lot of people will try it, a lot of people won't like it, and they'll go back to Battle for Azeroth. That's okay. And I think that there's going to be a lot of people that try it, maybe even for the first time, and they're going to love it. And those people are that's the audience.
And that audience is waiting, as you stated before. And
Yes.
speaking of waiting, We've got pretty much very little information about Classic since the actual announcement at BlizzCon and some subsequent interviews we had, I guess, peppered in here and there.
Yeah.
Do you, I guess, what are your predictions for a beta? Do you think a beta is imminent? Do you think they will run the beta concurrently with the BFA beta? Or do
No,
you, no, no,
no. It's silly. Um, Betas are not for testing anymore. They're for hype.
absolutely.
Betas are used for hype. Guys, I mean, let's be real. Okay, so today is was it January 30th, 2018. The Battle for Azeroth release, the pre-order came out today. Do you really think that it's an accident that they did the Q&A today at the same time? That they asked all these questions about Battle for Azeroth, and many of them are tailored towards the allied races that were conveniently also released today? This is not an accident. They parcel this stuff out. They release it on accident all the time. The betas are used for hype. They're used to keep the game in people's minds. It's the same as the Q&As. It's the same as the tournaments. All of these things are advertising for the game, and you don't want to, basically like do everything all at the same time. It's good for them that the beta comes out, or let's say the pre-order comes out. People play through the allied races. They'll do that probably for a couple of weeks or so, or at least a week, and then maybe we'll see the alpha after that. And then after the alpha comes out and people lose interest of that, and it's not the new thing anymore, then they will do something else and they will do more questions. And then Battle for Azeroth will come out. They're not going to release the classic beta. I would be amazed if they released the classic beta before Battle for Azeroth. And it's looking like Battle for Azeroth is going to be coming out somewhere, sometime in like June to September of 2018. We'll see, but those are the numbers that I was hearing. And after Battle for Azeroth is out for a while, I would be kind of expecting to see it towards the beginning, like the first, like about like the 1/3 of the expansion through. I would probably expect to see the classic WoW beta, but I think it would be very unlikely for them to have both betas running at the same time, because it would divert the hype and the attention of the audience.
No, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
And that's kind of sad news for those watching, I know, but we have to be realistic and we have to manage our expectations. But let's fast
Yes.
forward a couple of these years then. Let's say it's summerish 2019
Okay.
and it's 11:50 p.m. or 11:59 p.m. and Classic is right about to drop. What's the first thing Asmongold does when he logs in? And what are some of Asmongold's goals throughout Vanilla WoW? Scarab Lord rank 14, full BIS, what?
Well, all of the above. But on
Ooh.
top of that, yeah, I
Ooh.
mean, all I do is play video games all day. I can
Yeah.
do that. And basically, the first thing I'm going to do is probably get spammed and overwhelmed with a bunch of people trying to get attention,
Yeah.
because I'll be doing it on stream. It's going to be a really good time, and probably somebody laughing at me because they stole my name too.
Yeah.
But I'll figure it out. And anyway, after that, I'll probably just be playing as much as I can. I'm going to try to get Scarab Board for myself and as many people as possible. I've thought out a lot of like routes and everything. I'm going to make a guild with a lot of like my friends, like people that I know and people that they know, and everything. I don't know if guilds will be 300 or 1,000. Obviously, it's one of those things where like actually, if it was 1,000, it would be good for me. But no changes, so
Exactly.
I would never, I'd never actually advocate for it. But if it happens, hey, it's not
Yeah.
too bad. But anyway, yeah, that's basically what I'm going to do. I'll try to get Scarab Board. I'll try to clear Nax. A lot of the raids in vanilla, of course, as we all know, are not the most difficult thing to do,
Yeah.
right? But I think that with a lot of people that want to succeed and everything, we absolutely will be able to do them, and we won't really need a huge, like a 5 night a week raiding schedule to do that. So I think it'll be completely reasonable to do that and to get the gear and all of that. Yeah, so that basically everything that I can possibly do.
Awesome. And you've always been a completionist, and honestly, it's been some
Yes.
of the funnest stuff to watch on your stream. But since you brought up streaming a little bit, I know I've heard a couple of people talk about their concerns with streaming vanilla. I've heard you talk about your concerns on a PvP server. Do you think vanilla is going to be a difficult game to stream, or do you think actually the lack of, I guess, game systems is going to make it a more social experience, a more watchable experience? What do you think about that?
Well, it depends on the person, right? I mean, if on a PvP server, it's not going to be difficult to stream. It's going to be impossible to stream. You're just going to get hunted down by everybody, and then you're going to have 40 people that are trying to help you, while there's 40 people on the other side trying to kill those people that are helping you and kill you. And basically, anywhere you go is going to turn into Alterac Valley. and that's kind of annoying. And the way that I'm going to solve that is I'm just going to play on a PvE server, right? I mean, is it something that I want to do? No, not at all. But I mean, I'm a pragmatic person. It's not something that is going to be fun for me to just get ganked and hunted down by people that are trying to 5v1 me whenever I'm level 30. It's not. I get nothing out of that. It's not enjoyable for the viewers, and ultimately, I stream for entertainment, right? And I don't think it's entertaining. And I'm going to do what's going to entertain the most people. And I feel like being able to actually play the game is going to be a positive. In terms of like, I was thinking about playing on weekends, playing like horde PvP servers, and just having it be basically a shit show. And if I get killed constantly at level 12, then well, that's the way it goes. But I've thought about it, and we'll see what happens whenever it gets closer. But that's not something that I'm thinking about until I'm 60 on my first character, and raids are getting cleared, and I have ample time to do whatever I want. But in terms of like the little things, right? Like having people follow you around, it's nice to be able to cross realm over. Having people kill your quest mobs, it's nice to be able to cross realm over. Now, if people are doing that all the time, there's always been griefing rules in the game, right? So like if somebody is constantly harassing you, constantly doing that, you can report them, right? Because it's not fair for them to be able to ruin your experience, right? As one player to another, regardless of if you're streaming or not. That's not fair for somebody to do, to go out and intentionally disrupt and make your experience worse. It doesn't matter what you're doing. And that's something that I might have to deal with, but I hope I won't have to. I just want to play the game and enjoy it. And I feel like we are going to have, a couple of people that might try to be annoying, but I think everything will be generally okay.
I think so too, and props very much to you for your stream. It's honestly been one of the most sustainable streams I've seen. I mean, I personally
Thank
just
you.
don't have much time watch streams these days, or even in the past. But I've got to say, I make time to tune into Asmongold's stream, and he streams, I believe, every day from 11:30 a.m. Central Time to 4:30 p.m. Central Time. Is that right?
Somewhere around there. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of. It's like you go to the WoW streams and it's like you know what you're gonna see, right? You're gonna see Mythic Plus, you're gonna see Antorus, and you're gonna see PvP, right? People don't want to just see the exact same thing, and I've tried to build my stream around the world of Warcraft rather than the dungeon of Warcraft or the raid of Warcraft or the arena of Warcraft, and doing things that really engage people, that people enjoy, and also that are more accessible to players. Everybody has seen Maw of Souls 100 times. Doing Maw of Souls where the mobs have really big numbers because it's on a plus 25, something like that key, does not. I mean, who really cares, right? I mean, there are people that do care, but that's not the biggest audience. A lot of people want to just relax, have fun, and just enjoy the game that they're playing. And it's okay to just go for like the completionism stuff. And that's what I've really enjoyed, right? And I've said it's like the new meta of the game, right? It's like, it was raiding, then it was PvP, and like now it's just collecting mounts and battle pets, right?
Yeah.
And it takes you to all these different types of content in the game. And if you watch my stream, you're not necessarily going to know what to expect in the same way that if you watch many other streams that are focused on just one niche in the game. And I feel like that's been a big element of success for me. And it's something that I definitely try to integrate into my content on a daily basis.
I agree, and you do a good job of it. And if you haven't heard of Asmongold Stream, those one or two of you out there, definitely follow him on Twitch, on YouTube, Twitter. All of the links are in the description under his portal, as you can see. Thank you very much for coming out, Zach, and doing this with me. I do want to say something, and I hope you let me put this part on YouTube if you don't mind.
Of course.
Um, Asmongold followed me on Twitter when I had 30 followers. He's always been the type of guy that's been incredibly not only just helpful, but in general, a very down to earth, humble, and genuine guy. It's been very difficult for a new guy such as myself to contact anybody in regards to stuff like this. And I think the fact that he even came on here today says a lot about his character and his personality. And, I don't want to be brown nosy or anything like that, but I think it's honestly was something very special. And for somebody to see that they got a follower, when they had like 20 or 30 followers, and it was somebody that was a major player in the scene, it was very encouraging. And honestly, it was very, I mean, it felt good, honestly. So I really thank you for that.
How many subs do you have now on YouTube?
Um, Let me see, around like close to 2,000, I think. And honestly,
You,
I've got to admit, probably half of them are from you, dude. Honestly,
you
like,
had 20 whenever I watched your first video.
oh my God,
I pick winners.
thank you. I appreciate that. And honestly, thank you so much. Before we, I guess, close this up, do you have any shout outs, any sponsor stuff you do or anything
Uh,
like that?
well, I'd shout out your classic cast. You guys have done an amazing job. I had a chance to watch it. S-Fund asked me to watch it, and I really enjoyed it a lot. I think you guys. One of the big problems that the classic and vanilla community had is that a lot of the communication and the people that were the main players in the community were kind of toxic, and there were just a lot of bad actors, right? And I think that you guys have elevated that to be something more than just a bunch of jaded vanilla fans that are mad because they don't like Legion, because they want to be able to one shot noobs or something like that. And it's not just you guys, it's you, it's everybody else that's come out of the classic WoW community. And I feel like that's definitely one of the big steps that we can take to make classic WoW taken more seriously and have people that are willing to like engage with it. Because if you see people who are dominating the conversations with just like these weird ultimatums and just like crazy things that they're saying, and oh, Legion is the worst thing in the entire world, it's like, just give it a break, man. It's like you see somebody like that, they're ridiculous, right? And the last thing that you want to do is agree with the ridiculous asshole. So if you see somebody like that, people are going to have a natural inclination to dislike and disagree with that individual. And that's what I think is so important that you guys are bringing to the table is a classic WoW stream and videos. So I'm 100% in support.
We appreciate that so much, and I know
Yeah.
SFan and Stay Safe appreciate it a lot as well. And what do you think? Maybe a couple weeks down the line, could we
Yeah,
see you on the Classic Cast?
I knew what you were gonna say. That's why I already answered.
Well, I
Of course.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Zach. Honestly, and thank you for everything you've done for the community. This is the first ever quote unquote episode of Talking with Tip, I guess. We'll try this series out.
Mhm.
Very privileged to have Asmongold with us today. Thank you very much, Asmongold. And
Thank you very much for coming and having me, man.
no problem, man. No problem. Thank you, guys. And if you guys want to see somebody else in this series, please let me know in the comments section below. And as always, tips out, baby.
Peace.